So dudes, I'm G and this is my gaming experience. I hope that everybody had fun over the holidays because I don't know how much fun you are having on Rainbow Six Siege. Chances are, at the moment, you're not. I know that I've had a particularly tough time playing the game as of late because the game is being hit with a really nasty cheater wave. From what I can tell, the worst one we've had in a pretty long time. I think it's fair to say that there is no game quite like Rainbow Six Siege. It's one of the best to ever do it. It offers the most enticing blend of strategic thinking and tactical skill in an FPS game. And it's managed to stay relatively alive because of this for some time. However, there is one core problem with cheaters in this game, and that is with enough of these morons in the environment, it discourages player improvement. It discourages players to get better at the game, and it ruins the overall experience. Why play this game competitively when Valorant is right there? I believe Siege's competitors are eating it up right now because they have working anti-cheats, and Siege does not for all practical purposes. So I want to talk about the rise of cheaters as it stands currently, the ranked experience, and how it is a core element of the game. The negative impact the cheating has on the player experience is pervasive, and it affects the learning curve with what is essentially a punishment for improving. It provides a lack of incentive to play and improve. I'll talk about a possible solution and finally a call to action for Ubisoft that hopefully doesn't get me blacklisted. The long story short, the cheating is bad. Not only in terms of closet cheaters, but also blatant cheaters that ruin the experience outright just for the fun of it. The closet cheaters are what they are. They are there to mess around and troll for shirts and giggles. They're still annoying though, because a game with one of these people can be enough to waste about a half hour of your time. I know a lot of people don't grind this game for hours and hours on end. Maybe they just play for a couple hours max within a given day or a week. So when you put that into perspective, if you get just 2 games with these weirdos, you could potentially have an hour of your day wasted with a ruined experience. That's very annoying. I have the luxury of treating the game like a job, and I can afford to lose an hour or 2. But for a lot of people, just one cheater game is enough to ruin their entire play session. And that isn't just the blatants. When we get to the topic of closet cheaters, a lot of people love the clout chasing in Siege. Any game with a competitive ranked system is going to have this culture. The most immediate example I can compare it to that's doing relatively well is Valorant. Siege is having a particularly rough time with cheaters right now. In one instance, I ended up queuing 3 cheater games in a row before my stack finally threw in the towel and got offline. The closet cheaters are the most frustrating. I think that people have this idea that cheaters are automatically going to self-report every game they get into. And they do unintentionally. Because the root word is cheating, right? It's falsifying your results with an unfair advantage. It's scummy, anti-competitive behavior. So a lot of these people will go into a game and not realize that they're giving themselves away. But the goal is 100% to achieve a high rank for status, and they'll try to hide that. There aren't a lot of good Siege players who cheat, but sometimes you will get that final match where somebody is really sus the whole way through and then they just go full blatant during match point and tracks your entire team through walls. Now, some people will say that players just blessed one round until everybody in your stack notices in the kill cam that the closeter made a mistake of tracking them through a wall for too long. There's so many informational layers to playing Siege that it's relatively easy to conceal your cheats in this game versus other ones. And that's part of what makes it so frustrating. Siege is a competitive game. The biggest selling point of the game is the competitive grind, the learning, and the learning curve. It's a sweaty game for a sweaty audience. There's no doubt about that. Pulling off a well-coordinated, smart, and thoroughly thought-through strategy with your team is hugely satisfying. That combines prior game knowledge with snappy and efficient mechanical play. One of the things that makes Siege stand out, in my opinion, is that people who can't shoot lights out like me can still find a way to contribute. I think that's part of what makes the game's community so diverse, and why it attracts so many different kinds of players. The ranks grind is a big selling point for people, and it's a selling point for any live service game like this. The content is the process of learning and understanding the game. We already have a litany of complaints surrounding the ranked experience as it stands when Rank 2.0 was introduced. When cheaters get thrown into the mix, it just makes the whole thing completely unenjoyable and uninteresting. You can conceal your cheats really well, adding a dynamic of paranoia and dissatisfaction to the overall experience, and removing a big incentive to actually play the game and have fun. If you've been on Twitter lately, you know everybody is talking about this, and how the game is essentially unplayable at high MMR. Some content creators have pivoted to console siege just to get away from it, which I think adds credence to the argument that console is keeping the game alive. But even then, Mousetrap is reportedly having issues catching mouse and keyboard spoofers. I can't do anything about the cultural rot of shameless kids cheating in games, but I can highlight what is so uniquely damaging in relation to Rainbow Six Siege and why it's a problem worth talking about. The effect is pervasive and noticeable at every level of play right now, but particularly noticeable at high elo. And if you're on console, you're not safe. One viewer commented, "I've played console siege for well over 4 years now, and it's not quite the same. But even over here, we have our cheating problems. Zim, Cronus, and boosters are so common, it basically doesn't matter what rank you're in. If it's not a custom or quick play, someone in your game will be on M and K. And that's just if you're lucky. You get pitted against boosting stacks of 2.0 champs with their 1.5 scopes and their Cronus and just sit through 30 minutes of agonizing, ball-busting hell. The game really isn't fun at all anymore, with custom games and discovery modes. In short, R6 is buns now, and the corporate overlords need to stop being greedy bozos and give a little bit back. Except we need a lot bit back. The late fee is getting bigger and bigger, and soon enough people will just boycott the game altogether, assuming they aren't part of the cheater problem. We all know the same virgin 24-year-old cheaters will still be here in 2030 playing the same boring MPX P10 1.5 scope. So that's one comment I got. This is a valid complaint and really frustrating when we contextualize that console used to be the place to get away from this crap. I like the late fee comment. At a certain point, Ubisoft is collecting too much interest on their community credit card, and something's gonna give. But it's not gonna happen overnight. One day we're all just gonna realize how badly the game has been affected, and that nobody's playing anymore. Somebody else commented, "The only way I can enjoy Siege streams are majorly watching pro players like Benjamaster playing at FPL. Other than that, it's literally boring to watch ranked being monkey mode or Cheeto making the game unplayable. FYI, Macy J literally played 4 hours of Siege on stream a few days ago, and he had no legit game in 4 hours. At least if I can't do my work in my job due to technical issues, I still could get paid. But being a Siege streamer is just a pain at this point, as not only you can't attract the audience to stay due to the crappy situation, hence lesser revenue from subs or donations, you get lesser opportunities for creating content too. Also, I believe Siege is the only game in my library that's been plagued by cheaters like 4 years. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if it reached its 5th year anniversary, LMAO. Great comment. That's exactly what I was getting at in this community post. I said it'd be like working at Starbucks, except at random opportunities, the customer can jump over the counter and spray silly string all over the espresso machines. I can submit a report to the police, who may apprehend the troublemaker at a later undisclosed point, but you still have to account for the time you just wasted. That's basically what this feels like now. If I try to do my job, I can't. Well, content creator, you could play a different game. No, I can't. That's not how this works. Algorithmic entertainment is set up this way to establish audience capture. Since I have a captured Siege audience, if I upload anything that's not Siege on this channel, I'm losing revenue. I'm gonna have to start completely from scratch if I want to establish a new content format. That's just how this works. And to be completely honest with y'all, just to be real, I am not too big to fail. I am not at Macy J levels of popularity. I can't just pack it up and leave without some kind of risk inherent. According to this comment, Macy J had 4 hours straight of cheaters. That's at champ MMR that Macy regularly hovers at. I hover around diamond-ish. I say diamond-ish to make myself feel a little bit better about it. But it's making it difficult for me to play the game because I notice the Cheetos at my level of play quite frequently as well. The one thing that's always kind of held me back is my mechanics. What's the point in me working on my mechanics and tactical skill in this game to make content if I'm going to be rewarded with an awful experience and an inefficient workflow when it comes to my content? At a certain point, the only way I'll be able to make content for you guys is going to be in custom games and from custom 10-man servers. That's silly. The game has a matchmaking system. It is an online multiplayer game. This is the most important thing. You cannot let this problem fester. It should be priority number 1. A lot of people already take issue with the game being so esports focused. In my opinion, the game would not have survived without that focus. It released at full price with hardly any single player content to speak of, and was solely focused on the multiplayer aspect. That was almost 10 years ago, and the game isn't getting any younger. If you want a live service game like Siege to succeed, you gotta take care of the live service. The game has succeeded because of the learning curve. Does it drive people away? Absolutely, but it's a double-edged sword. I've always said Siege will be this weird little island nation of a game that isn't going to be boxing with the heavy hitters like Counter-Strike, but it has a modest and dedicated following that sustains it. And as long as I can pay my bills, that's all I really care about. Still, I'm growing increasingly worried as a content creator as to how much this problem is affecting player retention and, as an indirect result, my bottom line. This isn't the first time I've talked about the cheating problem. Every time we get a big wave like this, there is a considerable amount of criticism from the community, usually followed by a big ban wave. But at a certain point, I don't know how much more the game can take. When you already have such a big learning curve that drives most people away, anything that makes the experience unpleasant has resounding ripple effects throughout your whole player ecosystem. It is already hard enough to learn this game. You have to learn intel, capitalizing on the intel, and holding the win conditions that you have from potential outplays that can turn a 5v1 into a 1v1 before you even realize what's happening. So what's the issue? Why do we keep coming back to this problem? It's clear that this needs to be priority number one at the top brass, but for whatever reason, we do this every year. We have this cycle of, it's Jover, we're Barack every year. I can't leave because I have bills to pay, but a lot of people can leave. And then that makes the problem even worse for people like me. Much of improving in anything has to do with mindset and patience. I don't know about you guys, but I couldn't reasonably expect anybody to be patient with the game as far as it's handling cheaters. Over the course of the Christmas break, I'm assuming, from dumb kids off school, all you could hear about from the content creating community was how awful the cheating situation has become. When people see this, they may feel discouraged to queue up and play the game at all. And if they are discouraged from playing the game, why would they watch content on how to play and improve? The answer is there isn't any. There isn't any incentive to watch content about improving at the game because what you get at the end is a giant reminder of how much time you wasted. Flawed BS experiences that don't give you anything for the time you invested, aside from a shiny charm and a personal deep sense of accomplishment you have. The finals just came out. Valorant has a working anti-cheat. A big psychology problem that average players should not be expected to figure out is whether or not they should stay invested in the game, hoping that something gets solved later concerning its live experience. The game's experience should be supported so that people feel like they have an incentive to play and improve at this hugely complicated, hugely dynamic game. As I said, this is a similar song and dance we've done before. The game gets a massive cheater wave, people talk about it, it seems like all hope is lost, and then at the end of the season, we get a huge ban wave from BattlEye. I salute our frontline tech people at Ubisoft who are doing their part to combat the cheater menace. But as it stands, the resources and the corporate structure at Ubisoft Paris, or something, whatever it is clearly not enough. I know that it's common for us to talk about the game's old engine, and we're told time and time again, the engine's not the problem, the code's not the problem. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I can't tell how much of this is just PR versus what is true. I'm sure the answer lies somewhere in the middle. I'm sure the Ubisoft team has a good idea of what they're working with within reason. But you have to understand that new people are getting involved on this project all the time, with tech that goes back 10 years. The game has become this sort of Adeptus Mechanicus math equation, with ancient text lost somewhere in the ether. At a certain point, something's gotta give. It's clear that the infrastructure for the game is dated. Every season has one particular kind of pervasive bug that's just expected to be there. I know it's common to say, pointing out a game engine shows the person has no clue about game development or blah, blah, blah. Is that true with Siege? Because I keep hearing that and I see no solution. I see the same problem again and again. We're just debate broing with Ubisoft, when the average person should not be expected to do that. People play against cheaters constantly and want a solution. They want a long-term, sustainable solution, not promises of supporting the game to 100 characters. I hope the game gets to 100 characters. I think the game can very well get to 100 characters. But standing here now, on the 2nd of January 2024, while I work on this video, if this problem persists, I don't see the game getting to 100 characters. Do we know what that entails? Do we seriously understand the logistical capacity there? 100 characters means 7 more years of support. People will have to come out of their mother's womb and decided where they want to go to college in that amount of time. That is the span of a person's entire childhood. Something has to give, even if it is just a PR marketing trick, like Overwatch to Overwatch 2. Something has to be done to make a clear and concise statement of a culture shift, of a modern reinvention of the game. Maybe that has been happening behind the scenes and I don't know what I'm talking about. But I'd very much like to keep my job, and I'm not getting a lot of certainty. Certainty is something that is lacking in this industry, but it shouldn't be lacking when you're making promises of 100 characters to be added to a game. So my call to action that hopefully doesn't piss off too many people or get me blacklisted is this. Ubisoft, whether that's Paris or the top brass, I could have no idea what I'm talking about, but I don't know how much I should be expected to understand when it comes to the engineering of Rainbow Six Siege. All I'm seeing is a persistent problem that is hurting the game. I don't think the Montreal devs are stupid or incompetent. I think they're doing the best they can, but I understand how they can get frustrated with the gig. The community blames them for everything, and often assigns blame in places where it doesn't make sense to. Filtering good feedback from toxic feedback can be challenging sometimes. But at the end of the day, as an outsider looking in, I'll say just this. The game needs an extensive, modern, software-based overhaul Things need to be given to the Montreal team to run the game in-house. An in-house anti-cheat, an in-house engine, in-house infrastructure for Siege. Ubisoft is a massive company. Why does the Montreal team seem to be responsible for every single little thing without a certain level of funding, without a certain level of corporate overhead? If we don't want the game to go the way of Overwatch, the game needs help. Now or one day. I won't even have the audience to make videos like this anymore. Montreal needs a blank check, more staff, and more people, better equipment to handle the game in a modern age. If you're running a live service game in 2024 without a good anti-cheat, you're wasting your time. That's the reality of it. It doesn't matter if it's difficult. Adapt or die. I've been playing a ton of War Thunder recently. You know what that game has? The game has a robust anti-cheat. I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching. If I sound jaded, it's 'cause I am. Deuces.